No, it's not. Okay, so before you go and say, oh no, Scott is the only one that says Cycle 8 isn't good, he must be broken. I want to be very clear, the Cycle 8 is an excellent keyboard overall. But the issue is that the Cycle 7 was just so good. It's like you're dating a pretty girl, but you find out her sister is actually hotter. Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is Scott K. I know that the Cycle 8 is a very anticipated keyboard, and I know a lot of people raved about it also so far, because it is a great keyboard. But hear me out. The Cycle 7 though, that is a great keyboard. If you remember, I put that against like a gang of other 100-ish priced heavy hitters like the Neo 65 and so on, and the Cycle 7, it won hands down. Amazing features, clean design, finish, great typing feel, and it has such big, smooth, and voluminous sound. The Cycle 8 has like 90% of all that, but it doesn't have that last bit of sparkle the FRL little sister had. Let's see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go a little backwards here, right? This is the completed Cycle 8 TKL. Unlike the Cycle 7, which was an FRL TKL, an F-roll-less TKL, the Cycle 8 managed to grow the rest of the appendage. Yes, they did send me the most Richard Simmons 80s spandex hot pink case color. So instead of like trying to blend something into it, right? Something mundane, I decided to just choose violence and just go all out 80s laser trapper keeper with some cyan LED keycaps. Straight up neon cyberpunk vibes right here. From a design perspective, it's a handsome board. I mean, while the Cycle 7 was more angular and more understated, they made the 8 a little bit more swoopy and curvy. The Cycle 8 isn't missing anything. It's a complete package. A keyboard that does pretty much everything well, and you will be happy with it. Unless you have experienced the Cycle 7. Take a look. Not sure what they did with the smaller Cycle 7, but somehow that little board sounds bigger. While the Cycle 8 does have one of the best sounding mods I've heard I think in a while, overall the alphas are just not at the same level as the 7. But the 8 does have an amazing spacebar. I think in this category, the only other keyboard that competes against that spacebar is the Neo 80, which is essentially the elephant in the room, and we will get to that later. The other thing is the feel. Neither the Cycles were really designed to have like crazy flex in mind. They're a comfortable yet energetic feeling board, right? The Cycle 8 does have enough dampening where you won't be like craving for more, but the 7 does have an edge out on here as well. And if you are sensitive, you will notice that little bit of extra. So all in all, the Cycle 8 is not just a Cycle 7 with more keys. They're siblings that do have their own unique personalities. But before we dive deep into the Cycle 8 and the way it is, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, OBSBOT. So as you may already know, I moved to Korea from the US, right? And for me to keep in contact with like friends and family back at home, I do need a good webcam, which I got with the Tiny 2 by OBSBOT before. But when they brought out the new Tiny 2 Lite for almost half the price, I had to check it out. So OBSBOT took just the best core features of the big bro Tiny 2 and put it into a more approachable body, right? Hence the Tiny 2 Lite was born. Still retains some of the same like great features, right? Like the 4K resolution with the whopping 48 megapixel sensor. Captures 4K content in 30 FPS or up to 60 FPS for smaller resolutions. And check out how quickly and accurately this thing actually autofocuses. It blows my mind as a webcam. It uses the latest face detection autofocus like many of the high-end mirrorless cameras actually use today. Not only that, the Tiny 2 Lite has a large half-inch sensor that competes with so much more expensive webcams out there in the market right now. It actually helps to capture light and improves the overall low light performance like this. And paired with the dual omnidirectional noise reduction microphones, it's a pretty winning combination. It's also mounted on a 2-axis gimbal, right? So essentially the lens kind of like floats there on a stabilizer. It also means it can move around to track you as well. This is where the AI comes in. Check this out. It does an amazing job of recognizing you and following your movements. Not only that, this is the coolest part. Yeah, gesture-based zoom in and zoom out. You can also use auto zoom feature to help you kind of stay in the center of the conversation. The webcam will do all of it for you. I was shocked to see how good the Tiny 2 was before, and to get a lot of the great flagship features in a $179 price point, I think the Tiny 2 Lite is a home run. Check it out in the description below. Okay, so if you get past the ostentatious pink, they call it ruby, you will start to notice the little details of the Cycle 8, like the step design over the arrow keys, right, with the lights. It also has engravings to let you know what you're dealing with inside. The side profile is great, and one of the major features of the Cycle 8 is that the front is a pretty low 17.5mm design. If you flip this thing over, right, it shows off its gorgeous lower weight with a combination of brushed and polished PVD steel weight I have right here. Did I mention the suit? Yeah, got that nice little wing detail on the side and a nice curved rear end. And take a look. Yeah, the Cycle 8 got the same great ball and catch quick release mechanism that we've seen on the Cycle 7 and now so many other boards out there, which is a great thing because that's a great feature. If you look inside the actual Cycle 8, my Cycle 8 came with an anodized aluminum cover. It kind of looks like copper, but it's aluminum, that can house the extra weights or the battery if you choose to go wireless. Unfortunately, I was not provided with any of the accessories, so I will have to actually skip that portion for now. Now, let's take a look at the PCB. So it's been a while since I have seen a 1.6mm standard PCB. Everything has been the thin stuff lately, so this was actually a welcome surprise for me. Thicker PCBs do have better sound, so they're keeping it the same as the Cycle 7 in this situation. Otherwise, the usual, right? Like the south-facing KO style hot swap sockets. I think these are actually JWICs, I believe. No perky RGB or anything like that here, but one thing I did notice is that the pinholes on the PCB is surprisingly tight. I hope it's because it's pre-production, but it was so hard to put switches into them and even harder to pull them out. It was like the same for a few different switches, so I assume it's the actual PCB. Because of that, I had to choose a set of more worn-in set of Gateron Oil Kings to make it work with this keyboard right now. I hope that TKD will fix this issue before the release, and I'm sure they will because this is probably a pre-production palm. Now the plate. So apparently there are like 3 different types of plate options for the Cycle 8. So you have like the standard aluminum, you got the polycarbonate, as well as FR4. With my sample, they sent me the FR4, actually multiple FR4 ones, not sure why. But it's a pretty standard plate without really flex cuts, really, except for like that area that separates out the F-row. And you can see right here is where the mounts go. Speaking of mounts, so there are 2 types of mounting possible with the Cycle 8. So the first one is like this little O-ring. We've seen this on some of the Wuche boards like more recently, but it's essentially like a gummy O-ring concept, but like a smaller scale, multiples of them. In addition to the O-ring, it could also use the similar gasket beans as the Cycle 7. When you're done, you can kind of just take all this and drop the whole thing into the case like this. And you can see how the O-ring and also the bean actually sit into the little grooves. Okay, so let's discuss the difference between the 2 mounts. First of all, neither mounting style is that flexible. However, I feel that the gasket bean is a tad bit more flex. The material is a bit softer in my opinion, that's probably what's doing it. However, for whatever reasons, the sound of the gasket bean is like more muffled. It's not a huge difference, but if you do listen for it, the O-rings do sound a bit more vibrant, and in my opinion, it sounds better. Check it out. Did you catch that? In my opinion, I much prefer the sound of the O-ring mount in this case. Alright, now that you've pretty much seen everything about the Cycle 8, let me leave you with my final thoughts. In my opinion, the Cycle 8 is a great keyboard. It's a fairly reasonably priced keyboard for what it is, with a starting price of around $155. It's a good looking board, it's comfortable to type on, and with great feature sets that you'd expect from TKD. I mean, it's the same company as the Cycle 7. But that is the issue here. It's not really an issue, it's probably a preference thing honestly, but while the Cycle 8 is great, if you do end up comparing it to the Cycle 7, it's not quite as good, at least to me. Like I said, you start dating an attractive girl only to find out that her sister is slightly more attractive. And also, the elephant in the room, the competitors. In my opinion, the biggest competitor that you would actually be cross-shopping the Cycle 8 against is actually the Neo 80. While the Cycle 8 is a great board, I can't emphasize that enough, so is the Neo 80, and it's actually even slightly cheaper. So that's up to you. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll have more content for you in the future. Thanks.